April 3, 2017, New York City, New York, USA. General view of fans outside Citi Field before a game between the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. Mandatory credit. Brad Penner. USA Today Sports. Brad Penner, 55 years after a famous quartet from England took over Shea Stadium, the Mets might be taking their show across the pond. The Mets are in consideration for Major League Baseball's 2020 series in London, the Associated Press reports. Mets-Nationals is one of two possibilities being discussed, per the report, which says Cubs-Cardinals is the other consideration. MLB is beginning play in England this summer with the Yankees and Red Sox squaring off in a two-game series on June 29–30 at London Stadium. Should the Mets be chosen, they'd be trekking to the home nation of the Beatles 55 years after their famous concert in Flushing. Related, MLB sending Yanks-Sox rivalry to London in June 2019. Greater than read more. Related, Mets 2019 schedule includes road/home openers against Nationals. Greater than read more. Related, MLB's disabled list is getting a new name. Greater than read more. John Harper, SNY.TV, Twitter. In a month or so, it will feel as if spring training may never end. But for now, as official workouts begin in the next few days, there is hardly a more welcome sight in sports, especially for New Yorkers looking desperately for a reason to believe the city's championship drought has to end sometime. Yes, nothing sells hope quite like baseball in the Florida sunshine, especially when there is reason for optimism in Port St. Lucie. All in the Florida sunshine, especially when there is reason for optimism in Port St. Lucie. Conforto, Wheeler from Florida. 0 hours 1 minute and 26 seconds. New York Mets Michael Conforto and Zach Wheeler discuss their health going into 2019 and new GM Brodie Van Wagenen's impact on the team. For Michael Conforto, preparing for the grueling 162-game baseball season starts the minute a championship team has crowned. The 25-year-old Mets outfielder observed the traditional ball game changing since he grew up watching the sport. Instead of looking at the off-season as time to relax on the couch and stack up on holiday food, players are in the gym and focusing on the year ahead. Conforto is no exception. The off-season is big time for players these days, Conforto said. You know, everybody is preparing in the off-season, everyone's getting their work in. Me, especially after last year, understanding what the off-season can do for you going into spring training and then into the early parts of the season, it's going to be big for me. Kim Clement. The Mets announced Friday they have signed veteran INF Danny Espinosa to a minor league deal, and extended an invite to attend spring training. Espinosa spent all of last season in AAA with 3 different organizations in the Phillies, Dodgers, and the most recent Blue Jays. In 2017, he bounced around the big leagues with the Angels, Mariners, and Rays, where he struggled with a .173, .245, .278 line and 31 RBI. The 31-year-old did, however, spent 7 seasons with the Nationals where he hit .226, .302, .388 with 92 homers and 285 RBI. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred gestures while speaking during a Major League Baseball owners meeting on Tuesday, Feb. 2018 in Glendale, Arizona. AP photo, Ben Margot, AP. 2 of baseball's biggest stars remain free agents with spring training just about to open, but MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred is hoping they'll be signed before then. Speaking at the owners' meetings in Orlando, Manfred said, "Obviously, we want our star players signed and ready to go when we start playing," according to USA Today. Frazier upset with free agency. 0 hours 0 minutes and 57 seconds. New York Mets infielder Todd Frazier joined Mets hot stove and discussed how free agency in baseball is trending in that wrong direction. With only a few days left until pitchers and catchers report for spring training, there are still numerous free agents who have yet to reach a deal with a new team for the 2019 season. Mets 3B Todd Frazier isn't happy about it. Speaking on Mets hot stove at the team's facility in Port St. Lucie, Frazier indulged on this offseason and the lack of teams pouncing on the top free agent still waiting on the market. These last 2 years this seems to happen where guys, you got over 100 guys still that haven't signed. "It's a shame," he said. "Baseball is going in the wrong direction with this, and the fans want the best possible players out there and they're not getting them. So our focus with the union and everything else, we got a lot of work to do." Catching up with Steven Matz. 0 hours 1 minute and 49 seconds. SNY caught up with Steven Matz and got his thoughts on everything from the DH position to expectations for the 2019 season. Spring training hasn't officially started, but plenty of Mets are already getting ready in Port St. Lucie, including Steven Matz. Steven Matz gave his opinion on adding a designated hitter to the National League, so pitchers would be eliminated from the lineup. The lefty said he's excited to see what the Mets' newest acquisitions will bring to the team. "It's a sign that everyone's excited," Matz said of players arriving early to Mets camp. "Kinda chomping at the bit to get started." September 19, 2017, Miami, Florida, USA. Miami Marlins catcher JT Realmuto, 11, rounds the bases after hitting a walk-off solo home run in the 10th inning against the New York Mets at Marlins Park. Mandatory credit. Jason Vinlove, USA Today Sports. Jason Vinlove, Andy Martino, SNY.TV. Twitter, "The Marlins can't be serious with this, can they?" That was the vibe coming out of the Mets suite at the Delano Hotel in Las Vegas in December, when they were trying their best to pry star catcher JT Realmuto away from a division rival. When Miami, according to Major League sources, indicated an asking price of 1 or 2 of Michael Conforto, Brandon Nimmo and Amed Rosario plus multiple prospects, the Mets front office was sure that price would come down before long. August 11, 2016, Arlington, Texas, USA. A general view of the MLB logo with Colorado Rockies batting gear on it during the game against the Texas Rangers at Globe Life Park in Arlington. Colorado Rockies won 12-9. Mandatory credit. Tim Heitman, USA Today Sports. Tim Heitman, "The disabled list is a thing of the past." ESPN reported Thursday that MLB is renaming the disabled list the injured list. It's doing this, according to the report, because of concern that disabilities and injuries could be viewed similarly. The Mets had been aggressive in their efforts to trade for Marlins catcher JT Realmuto before eventually deeming the price too high and signing Wilson Ramos. The Marlins are still expected to deal Realmuto, and 2 other NL East teams have checked in. Here's the latest. February 7, 2:25 p.m., the Phillies and Marlins have reportedly agreed to a deal to land Realmuto, SNY's Andy Martino confirmed. 4 players will be headed to Miami, including RHP Sixto Sanchez, C. Jorge Alfaro, LHP Will Stewart, and an international bonus slot. Impact of JT Realmuto trade. 0 hours 1 minute and 1 second. On the Shea Anything podcast, Doug Williams and Nelson Figueroa discuss how the Realmuto trade could lead to Manny Machado or Bryce Harper. Doug Williams and Nelson Figueroa drop an all-new episode of the Shea Anything podcast. They discuss how the Phillies acquiring JT Realmuto impacts the Mets and the Manny Machado, Bryce Harper market. They also dive into Noah Syndergaard's health, and if he will be able to replicate his 2018 September numbers for a full season. Click below to listen. July 24, 2018, New York City, New York, USA. New York Mets catcher Devin Mesoraco, 29, hits a 3-run double against the San Diego Padres during the first inning at Citi Field. Mandatory credit. Brad Penner, USA Today Sports. Brad Penner, the Mets have signed Devin Mesoraco to a minor league deal with an invitation to Major League spring training, The team announced Thursday. Devin is greatly respected among our pitching staff and is extremely well prepared, Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen said in a statement. We are hopeful he can contribute in 2019. The signing of Mesoraco gives the Mets tremendous depth at catcher, since he currently projects as someone who would open the season with AAA Syracuse. Since the day he was hired in early November, Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen has been talking about improving his team's depth. The Mets have suffered significant injuries during each of the past 4 seasons. And, to Van Wagenen's point, during each instance, the Mets were left to scramble when finding a comparable solution to whomever went on the DL. For instance, in 2017, the Mets were bobbing around .500 and still very much in contention within the NL East. However, after losing multiple players from their opening day lineup, the team sank like a stone on its way to losing 92 games. Well, we know one Mets pitcher that won't be happy if the MLB decides to establish a universal DH. Mets RHP Noah Syndergaard went to Twitter to express his dislike in the best way he knew how, a GIF. Click below to see his reaction. Syndergaard ready for 2019. 0 hours 1 minute and 2 seconds. New York Mets pitcher Noah Syndergaard was an early arrival at spring training and is excited to work with his newly acquired teammates. He's early, but Mets RHP Noah Syndergaard couldn't be any happier to be back in Port St. Lucie for another spring training. "I couldn't be more pumped to be down in Port St. Lucie right now and get things started," Syndergaard said at the Mets facility on Wednesday. "It's just a great feeling seeing a few of my brothers around. I can't wait for the new batch to come in and meet those guys and start meshing with them." As Syndergaard mentioned, he isn't the only Mets players getting a head start on the new season. Players like Todd Frazier have also made the early trip to Florida to get prepared for the long grind ahead. Danny Abriano, SNY.TV, Twitter. When news broke that the National League was closer than ever to adding the designated hitter, my first instinct, as a traditionalist when it has come to keeping the DH out of the NL, was to recoil in horror. Instead, I thought about all the ways the DH in the NL could help the Mets both soon and further down the road, and stopped caring about NL tradition being ruined. While the universal DH will likely not be implemented for the 2019 season, though there's still a chance, it seems like it has a strong chance of happening for the 2020 season. And there are 3 big reasons why the DH in the NL becoming a reality would be huge for the Mets. We are very excited to announce that we have a new commenting platform that we'll be launching on Thursday. SNY has partnered with Spot.im to bring you a more dynamic commenting experience across our website. In the process, we migrated your current LiveFire user accounts and hundreds of thousands of comments to the new system. The look is slightly different than before and we've added some great, new features. You'll still be able to publish comments and follow conversations in real time. You'll continue to benefit from threaded conversations. And if you have notification settings enabled, you'll receive emails alerting you when others reply to one of your comments or mention you. Play the Jeff McNeil video game. 0 hours 0 minutes and 46 seconds. It's batter up for Jeff McNeil of the Mets, as he steps into the cage and steps into a video game to see if he can hit the high score. SNY recently caught up with Jeff McNeil near his hometown in California, where it was batter up as he got into the cage and stepped into a video game to see if he can hit the high score. The man throwing batting practice to McNeil in the video is Vince Segisi, a former Indian scout who helped facilitate McNeil's baseball career. "It's kind of been a magical ride for Jeff," Segisi said. "He was discouraged he wasn't getting scholarship offers in golf, so he made his own road in baseball." MLB Commissioner Robert D. Manfred Jr. answers questions from media during workouts the day before Game 1 of the 2015 World Series against the New York Mets at Kauffman Stadium. Denny Megley, USA Today Sports Images. John Harper, SNY.TV, Twitter. It's no secret that MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred is determined to bring about dramatic pace of play changes to his sport. Determined has suddenly become a most intriguing question, especially for the Mets. Suddenly an avenue has opened for Manfred to immediately implement the radical change that would require pitchers to face a minimum of 3 batters per appearance, which would prevent managers from matching up batter by batter with relievers and surely improve the pace of late-inning baseball. The catch is that MLB owners would have to agree to immediately adopt the DH in the National League, as counter-proposed by the Players Association. And that is something that is seen as unlikely, SNY's Andy Martino reported earlier Wednesday. June 5, 2018, New York City, New York, USA. General view of Citi Field as the sun sets during the fifth inning between the New York Mets and the Baltimore Orioles. Mandatory credit. Brad Penner, USA Today Sports. Brad Penner, Andy Martino, SNY.TV, Twitter. While the Players Association has proposed a universal designated hitter for the coming season, multiple high-ranking Major League sources do not believe that it has a chance to be implemented that quickly. It's hard to tell teams in 2 weeks they have to construct their team with a DH, said one source. The union has advocated for a universal DH for decades. According to sources, several NL owners remain strongly opposed, and the group is not close to consensus on the issue. In order for the players to get their way on this, they would have to offer a significant concession. Miracle Mets on 1969 win 0 hours 2 minutes and 3 seconds. SNY's Sweeney Moorty visits with Art Shamsky, Ron Swoboda and Ed Kranepool of the 1969 Miracle Mets. SNY's Sweeney Moorty visits with Art Shamsky, Ron Swoboda and Ed Kranepool of the 1969 Miracle Mets. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred gestures while speaking during a Major League Baseball owners meeting on Tuesday, February 20, 2018 in Glendale, Arizona. AP photo, Ben Margot, AP. Significant changes could be coming to Major League Baseball. The league and the Players Union have exchanged proposals which address pace of play, competitive integrity and service time manipulation. Below are some of the details of each proposal, which was reported by Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic on Tuesday. Will Frazier start at first? 0 hours 1 minute and 18 seconds. New York Mets infielder Todd Frazier is excited to get back onto the field for spring training, but will it be consistently at third base? All Mets players are expected to be in Port St. Lucie by Feb. 16, but veteran Todd Frazier has gotten a head start as he was seen getting some swings and field work in on Tuesday. Normally for an established veteran, spring training is a month of preparation to get the kinks and rust of the off-season out, and prime for the grind of the regular season. But, for Frazier, this spring training will be a true fight for his job at third base with the infield depth. New Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen brought to the team. The first was Robinson Cano in Van Wagenen's first big move in his new role, and then Jed Lowry came later on this offseason. Add in J.D. Davis, and Frazier has some good competition in the hot corner. Mets manager Mickey Callaway said in September that he intends for Jason Vargas to be in the team's rotation this coming season, a comment that is still being criticized by most Mets fans. "I think we're the best team we can possibly be with Vargas being the guy he was last year in our rotation," Callaway said. "I think we all feel confident that Jason, when he gets going and gets on a good schedule, he's going to be competitive. That's one of the reasons we signed him." Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen has made the same statement on multiple occasions this past winter, including earlier this week during an interview with SiriusXM's MLB Network Radio. Syndergaard throws from mound. 0 hours 1 minute and 20 seconds. New York Mets pitcher Noah Syndergaard throws a solid bullpen session on day 2 of spring training. Early arrivals. Spring training hasn't officially started, but plenty of Mets are already getting ready in Port St. Lucie, including Noah Syndergaard and Todd Frazier. On Tuesday, Syndergaard threw a bullpen session and Frazier talked about first base, where he might find himself spending the most time this season. Click below to watch. Adam Hunger, Andy Martino, SNY.TV, Twitter. With all the talk about a potential contract extension for Jacob deGrom, it has been easy to forget that another Mets pitcher, Zach Wheeler, is even closer to free agency. deGrom is under team control through the 2020 season, but Wheeler is set to enter the open market this fall. And while the Mets are actively discussing whether to make a long-term offer to deGrom, it is simply too early to say if they will do the same with Wheeler, according to Major League sources. Wheeler, 28, missed 2 seasons after undergoing Tommy John surgery in 2015, but emerged as dominant in the second half of last season. In his final 17 starts, he posted a 2.30 ERA and a 0.93 WHIP. He enters the season as the Mets' most reliable starter, after Cy Young Award winner DeGrom. No big deal for DeGrom. 0 hours 1 minute and 23 seconds. SNY Baseball insider Andy Martino discusses whether Jacob DeGrom will sign a contract extension with the Mets. Andy Martino, SNY.TV, Twitter. Jacob DeGrom has not yet set any deadlines for extension talks with the Mets, and he has not yet threatened to limit the team's usage of him. But with his side disappointed with the lack of progress, it's worth looking at the CAA playbook and dealing with similar situations. In February of 2012, Ryan Zimmerman's agent Brodie Van Wagenen set a deadline for extension talks with the Washington Nationals. With 2 years remaining before free agency, Zimmerman did not want contract talks to distract his team during spring training or the season, so Van Wagenen told the Nats that he would not talk after the beginning of spring training. If the sides had not agreed in that time frame, and they ultimately did during the weekend of the deadline, Zimmerman would likely have tested free agency after the 2013 season. A general view from the press box of First Data Field, home of the St. Lucie Mets. Jason Binlove, USA Today, SNY, the official television home of the New York Mets, New York Jets and all things New York sports, today announced its 2019 spring training schedule for the Mets, featuring more than 100 hours of exclusive programming, plus complete daily coverage of the team on SNY.TV and across SNY's Facebook, facebook.com/sneak Instagram, @SNYTV, and Twitter, @SNYTV, platforms. Live Mets baseball returns to SNY Saturday, February 23 at 1:10 p.m. As the network's Emmy Award-winning broadcast team of Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling and field reporter Steve Jelbs call all the action for its preseason opener against the Atlanta Braves. The broadcast is the first of 14 live Mets games to be produced by SNY during spring training. The full schedule is listed below. SNY's Mets Hot Stove will relocate to First Data Field Tuesday, February 19 and Wednesday, February 20 at 7:00 p.m. and will culminate with SNY's annual live 1-hour show from Duffy's Sports Grill Thursday, February 21 at 7 p.m. February 19, 2018, Port St. Lucie, FL, USA, New York Mets left fielder Yoenis Cespedes, 52, during practice drills at First Data Field. Mandatory credit, Steve Mitchell. USA Today Sports. Steve Mitchell. The Mets may have a clearer idea for when outfielder Yoenis Cespedes will return from double heel surgery around opening day, GM Brodie Van Wagenen said on Monday. Van Wagenen, who had previously said he views Cespedes as the ultimate trade deadline piece, to suggest the 33-year-old slugger could return around the All-Star break, said on Monday he doesn't think we'll have an idea during spring training. We want to make sure that he's 100% healthy when he comes back, Van Wagenen said, whenever that day is. Brodie confident in Mets roster. 0 hours 3 minutes and 55 seconds. New York Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen talks team's off-season strategy, confidence in current roster, and zero plans to sign starting pitcher. Mets GM Brodie Van Wagenen made it clear on Monday that the team addressed its most pressing needs this offseason, but is still keeping his ear to the ground on any other potential moves. That may include adding another major league contract to the roster. I don't think we have any restrictions in what we can or can't do, he told reporters on Monday. New York Mets Jerry Blevins prepares to pitch during the 8th inning of a baseball game against the Miami Marlins, Saturday, April 15, 2017, in Miami. The Marlins defeated the Mets 5-4. AP photo, Wilfred Oli, AP, former Mets LHP Jerry Blevins signed a minor league deal with the Oakland A's, according to the New York Post's Joel Sherman. Blevins, 35, struggled on the mound for New York last season, going 3-2 with a 4.85 ERA in 64 relief appearances. He totaled 41 strikeouts in 42 2/3 innings and recorded a 1.36 WHIP. In 2016 and 2017, he posted sub-3.00 ERAs, becoming a strong option in the Mets bullpen. He had a 3.38 ERA in 219 relief appearances since joining New York in 2015. Early arrivals at Mets camp: 0 hours 1 minute and 10 seconds. SNY gets first look at New York Mets early arrivals. 2:19 spring training in Port St. Lucie. We see Mets and Syndergaard playing catch. With free agents Manny Machado and Bryce Harper still available, some fans have wondered why the Mets have not aggressively pursued the two All-Stars, yet GM Brodie Van Wagenen assured that the moves they have made this winter have significantly improved the team. I think fans always have their right to an opinion, but I hope the fan base recognizes the amount of work we've done this offseason and number of needs that we addressed, he told reporters on Monday. April 27, 2018, San Diego, California, USA. New York Mets general manager Sandy Alderson looks on before a game against the San Diego Padres at Petco Park. Mandatory credit: Jay Groff, USA Today Sports. Jay Groff: If Sandy Alderson could have his tenure as Mets GM back, there is just one thing he would do differently. He would have offered Daniel Murphy a long-term deal. The one thing I regret, and I told him this, was not signing Daniel Murphy, Alderson told Dan Martin of the Post. We've kept in touch. He's a great person and a really good player. July 15, 2018, Washington, D.C., USA. USA infielder Peter Alonso, 34, hits a 2-run home run in 7th inning against the World team during the 2018 All-Star Futures game at Nationals Ballpark. Mandatory credit: Jeff Burke, USA Today Sports. Jeff Burke: There was an expectation after the Mets dealt away multiple key prospects this offseason that their farm system might slip into the bottom third of the league, or even be ranked among the absolute worst in baseball. That didn't happen. They actually rose 7 spots from where they were before the 2018 season. On his new list, ESPN's Keith Law ranks the Mets system 14th, writing, "The Mets would easily have had a top 10 system had they not traded away their top 2 prospects, Jarred Kelenic and Justin Dunn, as well as other valuable prospects such as Luis Santana, in a bid to make the 2019 team a contender, a bid that might very well work if their starters are healthy enough, but that could just as easily lead to a 4th-place finish." Despite the trades, it's still no worse than an average system thanks to a lot of hits on draft picks beyond the first round and some successes in the international market over the past 2 years. March 24, 2018, Lakeland, FL, USA. General view of the field as the Philadelphia Phillies take batting practice prior to the game against the Detroit Tigers at Publix Field at Joker Marchant Stadium. Mandatory credit: Douglas DeFellis, USA Today Sports. Douglas DeFellis, Andy Martino, SNY.TV, Twitter. With less than 2 weeks before pitchers and catchers report to spring training, dozens and dozens of quality Major League free agents remain jobless. But there are no plans for the Players Association to repeat last year's experiment with a training camp for unsigned players, according to Major League sources. Last year, approximately 30 Major League players, including recognizable names like Mike Napoli, Neil Walker and Tyler Clippard, attended what came to be known as Camp Jobless, in Bradenton, Florida. The idea was to keep in shape and be ready when a team called late into spring training. August 19, 2018, Washington, D.C., USA. Washington Nationals starting pitcher Gio Gonzalez, 47, throws to the Miami Marlins during the 2nd inning at Nationals Park. Mandatory credit: Brad Mills, USA Today Sports. Brad Mills: The Mets have interest in signing free agent LHP Gio Gonzalez and have remained in touch with his camp, but that interest is not currently at a multi-year level, reports SNY's Andy Martino, who notes that Gonzalez is still holding out for more than a 1-year deal. Martino reported earlier this week that the Mets and Yankees were both still interested in rotation depth, but that neither team was involved in negotiations for Wade Miley, who recently signed a 1-year deal with the Astros worth $4.5 million. Because the Mets have their top 5 rotation spots currently locked in, Martino suggested it could be easier for them to convince a free agent pitcher such as Doug Fister or Brett Anderson to sign an